Martin Shkreli, also known as the Pharma Bro, who got national scorn for hyping up the cost of a life-saving drug by about 4,000%, has actually been arrested by the FBI. Now, the 32-year-old founder and CEO of Turing Pharmaceuticals had made headlines for raising the price of Daraprim, which is often used to treat HIV and AIDS patients. He raised the price from $13.50 per pill to $750 overnight. And of course, Twitter let him have it. Now, as for why he was arrested, well, it has actually nothing to do with gouging people who need this drug. Instead, had to do with, well, screwing over rich people. The only thing that you can ever get arrested for, apparently, if you're a very, very wealthy person. Now, Shkreli is accused of illegally taking stock from a biotech firm he launched in 2011 called Retrophin Inc. And this is according to Bloomberg, and using it to pay off unrelated business debts. Now, both he and his lawyer, who's also implicated in this, could face up to 20 years. Now, let's get into some details. Now, federal prosecutors allege that he also conducted a complicated shell game with his former hedge fund, MSMB Capital Management. Now, he's charged with making a sham consulting agreements and secret payoffs using his firm. Wow. So there's a lot of stuff in there. So Mr. Shkreli has been doing some shady dealings, allegedly, of course. In fact, he was not only was he hiking up the price of a drug, Daraprim, but he was also supposedly making these shady dealings. Now, the internet went after him over the whole Daraprim thing. In fact, it's not just the internet, but the fact that this guy was so heinous, even Donald Trump went after him. He looks like a spoiled brat to me. He's a hedge fund guy. I thought it was disgusting what he did. That's according to Donald Trump. Now, Trump said he was disturbed by the CEO's refusal to back down after a New York Times story publicized the cost increase. That guy is nothing. He's zero. He's nothing. He ought to be ashamed of himself, said Trump. So, here's a guy so heinous that you have heinous Donald Trump going after him. But see, here's the thing. Shkreli's a douchebag, right? And we all know this. Even Donald Trump can see that he's a douchebag. You know you're a douche when the Donald goes after you. Okay. But he's also a symptom of a bigger problem. Now, his arrest, as I had mentioned, it had nothing to do with why he's being hated on in the first place. See, his price gouging activities, while incredibly douchey, were actually 100% legal within our system. That's a problem. No. His thing, what he had done, and this is according to the indictment, the thing that he did wrong was rip off rich people. He was ripping off shareholders. According to the indictment, Shkreli and his lawyer, Evan Griebel, along with others, orchestrated three interrelated fraud schemes from September 2009 through September 2014. It said that they fraudulently induced investors to invest in two separate funds and misappropriated the assets of publicly traded Retrophin to satisfy Shkreli's personal and unrelated professional debt obligations. Now, a little background on his company, his hedge fund, MSMB Capital Management. Now, it was founded back in 2009, and Shkreli announced its closure not long after, in 2012. Now, Retrophin was created in 2012, right after MSMB shuttered. It closed its doors. And Shkreli was the CEO until the company fired him in 2014. Now, Retrophin, in response to this, in August sued Shkreli in federal court in Manhattan for a whopping $65 million, claiming that he had used his control over Retrophin to enrich himself and pay off claims of investors in MSMB, which he had also allegedly defrauded. Jesus, man. So this guy apparently has a long list of fraud and ripping people off to pay off his own personal debts, from also trying to enrich himself and ripping people off. Wow. There's a lot in here, okay? Now, what's funny is that after Retrophin launched their lawsuit, just to show how much of an asshat he is, Shkreli told Bloomberg Business Week that, quote, the $65 million Retrophin wants from me would not even dent me. I feel great. I'm licking my chops over the suits I'm going to file against him. This guy's an utter asshat. Jeez, man. Jeez. And if it's one thing that you can learn from this, is that it's not the money that stops people. Now, just like on Wall Street, you impose fines on these people, well, that's not really going to do a whole lot to them. But what really does it is jail time. And that's exactly what he might be getting. And see, this is why, as sort of an unrelated but related note, this is why we should have jailed the bankers after the financial crash, 2008. But see, this is also a good example of why you can't have two sets of rules, one for rich people and one for everyone else. And this is why you can't let people with money and power get away with screwing regular people over. Now, what Shkreli did is he allegedly broke the first rule. You don't rip off rich people. You don't rip off investors. You can rip off regular people all you want. Sure, you're going to get a little pushback on Twitter, and the free market will step in. And that's great and all. But still, under our system, that's legal. And it shouldn't be. And what it shows to me is that there are different laws protecting people who are investors, but not people who would get hurt the most by these legal but deeply unethical practices of buying off old drugs, patents to old drugs, and then jacking up the price 4,000 to 5,000%. He's a symptom of this system, not the cause. Our system is set up to allow this to happen. And it screws over people who have no choice. But it's also set up to protect investors who will really willingly invest in risky startups or risky ventures. I'm not saying that they shouldn't have a recourse, those investors. Of course they do. I'm just saying that maybe we should also have a system set up that protects the most vulnerable from assholes like Martin Shkreli. Wouldn't it be nice